For October the 28th, 2022, we talk about Phantom Abyss, Tunic, Scorn, and much more. Welcome to level 434. My name is Cole Ross.
I'm Dennis Furia.
I'm David Maysmith.
I'm Ben Merkel.
And you are listening to The Level. It's a podcast for people who love video games. I had to stretch that out because I need to look and see. Oh, turns out all of us were here before, so there's nobody I can go to first.
No! I thought you were checking. Yep, it's still about video games.
It is still proximate to video games, yeah.
Do you know, we vote on that before we start recording every week.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
This has never been explicitly about video games. It's just that's won so many weeks in a row.
It's always a nail biter.
There are a few touch and go votes, yeah.
I always write in Highlight, but it never wins.
I want to segue into what I've been doing this week with this. So
You've been playing Highlight?
No, voting part. Okay. I found out this week I got my ballot in the mail for mail-in ballots, and Seattle's has a measure on it to change how you're doing votes. And so they have two options where it's either like a yes/no voting system. I think it's called like inclusion voting or something like that.
Okay.
And then there's board account voting, and so ranked choice voting is the other one. And so you're voting on how you're going to be voting for next time, which is
how meta. Yeah.
See, I feel like the thing that worries me about that is ranked choice voting is, made to be, tends to produce more centrist, candidates, and only the non-conservative parts of the U.S. are ever going to do that. So it seems like the net result is the U.S. becoming more conservative.
That's an interesting point. It does actually squeeze out the middle, the ranked choice voting, though, because people still vote for whichever side they want to vote for, and so that's why one of the arguments for like the yes/no voting system is you get more moderate candidates, but the advantage of that is that represents everybody more accurately, instead of it being a weird football team politics thing. So
yeah,
sure.
I would really hate if the nominal left in America was actually centrist and thus ineffectual. It would be really that would be a problem.
Yeah, that sounds like a nightmare scenario.
Yeah, it seems like it'd be really bad if the opposition kind of was really bad at being opposition. Yeah.
Yeah, I found out that voting here in Alabama is one day after I take my car in for repairs. So I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to get to the polling place.
Huh. Well, hopefully there's a way it works out for you.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too bad.
Yeah. So did you send in your ballot, Ben?
Not yet. It's not due. This homework's not due for another week or two. So
Gotcha.
One other thing that I wanted to share is I had a second board game meetup this last weekend. I started a meetup group in the neighborhood that I live in. So we go to a bar, people bring board games. The bar already has like board games and stuff, and it's like supports that. It has like arcade machines and stuff too. But yeah, it was really good. I taught people how to play Above and Below, and people are into it. And I played a game called Red Dragon Inn, which is a fantasy drinking game where you're
yeah.
It was awesome. So I was really happy with that. So.
Nice.
I thought the fantasy drinking game was like Spin the Bottle.
Ooh.
Is that not accompanied by alcohol?
I mean, you're turning fantasy into reality with that one, maybe.
I mean, you have to drink the bottle before you can spin it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Checks out.
So, based on this second meeting, do you think that there's going to be has this pushed up the timeline for introducing them to more complicated games?
I'm trying to slow roll that. I'm not trying to scare anyone away. So, Above and Below is a very like thematic game. It's like a pretty big crowd pleaser. You can show it to people who don't typically play board games, and they'll like it, even though it is like a worker placement game more or less. Mm-hmm. So, I'm trying to make room for everyone to have a good time. I think the eventual goal is to kind of get enough people so that you can do multiple games at the same time. So you can do like a more casual game and a more serious game. So
Nice.
We'll see.
Yeah. David, how about you? What's going on?
Not a whole lot. Went to the Ren Fair this past weekend.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, so we did my martial arts school did a demonstration, so that was a lot of fun. Our school is kind of pseudo associated with, I guess, the local ballet dance school. And so, they were doing a show there, so we did as part of that. And that's really cool. Also, did some blacksmithing and made a arm torque, I guess it's called, like a upper arm bracelet thing, which was kind of cool. And also got gifted a longbow. So, yeah, so 45-pound hickory longbow.
Damn,
Wow.
That's a shitload of wood.
Oh, no, sorry. The wood is...
You know what? I didn't realize it was dumb until I said it. So
Yeah, no, the draw weight is 45. So that's...
Oh, that's amazing.
David, I think that's also the answer to your question of how you get to the voting place. You have something to make someone give you a ride to the voting place.
I thought you were going to recommend he launch himself out of his boat.
See, and I was thinking I'd just fire my ballot, like throwing a brick through someone's window with a note attached.
that's some Robin Hood ass shit. Yeah.
Yeah. No, so yeah, 45 pounds is like the upper end of like small game hunting.
Okay.
So yeah, like war bows were like 100 to 160 pounds. But
Well, and it's not a compound bow. It's just like a simple longbow.
right. So it's like it's unstrung. It's like as tall as I am.
Ooh,
That's what makes it a longbow, right?
Right. Yes, it is a long boy.
Which for reference, just to get an idea of how modern technology has improved things, the kitty bow and arrow that I used when I was probably like 8 or so, was a 45-pound compound bow. So
Right, exactly.
literally that application of what is that, pulleys, compresses what would normally be a 6-foot bow into a little toddler can fire thing.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and the other thing is a longbow, a recurve bow, and a compound bow all have very different are very different in terms of at what part of pulling it is most of the weight there.
Oh, interesting.
So a compound bow, or a long bow rather, is almost no weight until it's almost completely pulled, and then all of the weight. Whereas a recurve is kind of more continuous, and then a compound is continuous, and that full draw there's almost no weight.
Yeah.
So, and my understanding that has effects on like a compound bow is going to kind of effectively be more powerful, but slower, and or rather a longbow, but obviously that stuff only really matters if you're like trying to pierce plate armor.
Yeah.
Which you were at a Ren fair, so duh.
Yeah, just attacking random fairgoers as one do.
I guess it was authentic. Call 911.
No.
Yeah, no, there was a there was a HEMA group there doing demos, and a Cossack group, like Cossack reenactment group.
Okay.
So yeah, all sorts of stuff there. It's a very dense Ren fair because it's basically just this town's like I don't know what you call it, like their public square downtown.
Yeah.
So it's about a city block with an entire Ren fair packed in. No jousting though. That was too bad, but
Yeah, I imagine that would be hard to do on the city streets.
I think they could have found a way.
I mean, if you didn't worry about people falling off of horses onto concrete.
You're in armor.
Simple, don't plan to lose.
Yeah. See, the thing is, when with jousting, one person has to lose.
Damn it.
Yeah.
These millennial jousters, everyone wants to win.
It was interesting quenching the blacksmithing in like the city's like fountain.
Oh,
that's badass.
I'm surprised they got. I mean, I guess it's not cold enough out where that would actually, like, if you touch something wrong, it would crack.
Yeah. So this, since it wasn't a blade, we weren't doing it. It was more just like let it, and that's part of the reason probably we are doing it that way, is like let it mostly just cool down in the air and then just do the last little bit so that you can handle it.
I gotcha.
But yeah, the whole thing where you see, like, what is it, Conan, where he like douses it in snow, like, yeah, that would definitely shatter it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's cool. That sounds like a good weekend.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Dennis, how about you?
Yeah, I didn't want to step on David's bit, but I did have the perfect segue with Ben.
Okay.
Vis-a-vis a community group getting together in person for the first time. So Crossroads, my church, started like a community group for gamers. It's like a Discord channel.
Cool.
We've all been hanging out. And we had talked like, oh, we should do a meetup because several of us are in Cincinnati. And then also my church does like a camping thing once a year that was coming up, and we're like, oh, we could do that. And this was months ago. I said, guys, it will be hilarious if the very first meetup of the gaming group is the one where you explicitly disconnect from all technology for the weekend.
Yeah.
And we almost got it, but we did fall into that category. We had the camping trip this weekend, and then we've got our first meetup at the new 16-bit arcade in Cincinnati on Thursday.
New one.
So close, but the 16-bit changed locations.
Oh, so it's not downtown anymore, or
it is downtown.
It's just not on OTR, or it's just not. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's with the Pins Mechanical Company, if that means anything to anyone.
Oh, so it's over on Main Street. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, is Pins Mechanical, is that like a bowling alley?
Duck pin bowling / pinball / now 16-bit arcade.
Wait,
like
so duck bowling? So you're like throwing ducks at things?
Oh no, it is. I don't even know how to describe duck pin bowling. It's like mini bowling. It's like the bowling you would imagine Rumpelstiltskin doing. It is the cornhole of bowling. I don't know how else to describe it. Like it's
for
smaller
people not
pins.
from the Midwest, cornhole's bag toss.
Yeah. It's smaller pins spaced further apart, and your ball is smaller, so it's almost impossible to get them all in one go. But the aisle is shorter. All the pins are held up by wires. And instead of having an elaborate machine to reset everything, it's just the wires are kind of loose when they get hit, and then it like zip pulls them up and drops them back down to reset them. So it's I make it akin to cornhole because it's very easy to play with a beer in your other hand.
Right. You're not your form is not necessarily terribly important.
No, I'm sure to somebody it is, but not to your average player.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Apparently, this is as completely different than candlepin bowling.
That's I did a search on that just to see if that was just a local name for candlepin bowling, like they do up in the Northeast. But yeah, that's
I've never heard of that.
Wait,
before.
what is candlepin bowling now?
Yeah.
My understanding is it is very similar to regular bowling, except the pins are narrow. I'm not sure about the relative weights and size of the ball.
Interesting. Yeah. But yeah, it was kind of a surreal experience having this camping trip where you're sitting around the campfire with guys and kind of seamlessly weaving in and out of like, oh, hey, here's faith stuff, and then into what'd you think of The Witcher 3, and then over into what'd you think about that sermon, and then back into what FPS are you excited for coming out? Like it was a fun blend of these two areas of my life. So
nice.
to be continued on Thursday. which I wish I had thought to plug it last week for anyone in Cincinnati who's listening, because this will be the day after that it goes out. But yeah, good times.
Cool. I got nothing. I went viral last weekend.
Ooh, what?
So I
So you have the COVID.
What's that, David?
So you have the COVID?
No. Thankfully, no. I've managed to not get COVID. I had a tweet. It was a very dumb tweet that I sent out on the 19th. So that was like Thursday, probably, is what that was. And I wouldn't talk about it. It was last Wednesday. God. I wouldn't talk about it except it's the first time that has happened. So the tweet that I sent was, when I die, give me an Elden Ring burial. Just plant my dead ass in a chair facing something cool. Okay, dumb tweet. I've said much dumber, but it was a joke about a game. For some reason, as of right now, this had 50,600 likes.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Oh yeah, here it is.
What's that?
50,601 now.
There
Thank
we
you
go.
very much.
Okay, yeah. There, the alert just came through. Yeah, I wouldn't talk about it, but it's weird. Like but by an order of magnitude more popular, and I only bring it up because generally it has been a positive experience. Normally, people talk about I had this tweet, so many people saw it, and just everybody was an asshole. First off, there's a wonderful setting on Twitter which I have set up anyway, which is only notify when somebody who follows me replies to this thing. So there are a bunch of people replying and doing quote tweets, and most of them are positive, laughing and stuff like that. But I didn't have to see them, so this didn't have to ruin my life.
That is an excellent idea.
People were generally positive, and then I get a Facebook message from an old manager of mine who says, "Oh, I didn't the screenshot. Oh, I didn't expect to see you on Reddit today." Somebody posted it to Reddit where it got. I have no idea about the stats on it, but before the Elden Ring people took it down for being irrelevant, it eventually got to the front page of Reddit very briefly. And on r/popular. Yeah. So it hasn't ruined my life. And, it's hard to take pride in it because A, it doesn't mean anything. And B, it was a really dumb thing that I said. I've said much dumber things that didn't get anywhere near as much traction. So that's.
But the reaction that it got from me, is the exact reaction that is that caters to virality.
Yes.
That will make something go viral. It's just that brand of dumb.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to virility.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's my little journey. It was mostly positive. I'm happy it didn't rain hell down upon me.
Yeah, so you're now internet famous.
Yeah, our marketing for the network is done for the year, so that's nice.
I suppose, yeah, it didn't cost anything. Well, I was on Twitter, so it enacted it. It brought a terrible toll just by being on Twitter.
What did it cost you? Everything.
Oh, so much.
I mean, my greatest fear is, does that mean you've now come to the attention of Elon Musk? Because I mean,
God, I hope not. No.
Oh,
God,
shit.
no. Yeah, no. I so much don't want that to happen that I wish I didn't know about him. So.
I mean, I think so does the universe.
Yeah. Oh, so that's it. That sounds like some banter to me. I think we ought to get in and talk about video games. And to do that, we need to do the regular kind of show. What with Grind, the multiplayer, and the end boss. And why don't we get started with...
The Grind.
The Grind, where we talk about the games we have been playing over the past period of time or so. Who has something new?
I do.
Okay, Dennis, go.
Yeah, I stumbled onto a new game that I guess is an early release called Phantom Abyss.
And this is the multiplayer racing game, right?
Yeah, except that description is wholly accurate and doesn't do it a modicum of justice.
Oh, it's the roguelike, right?
It's
that description is accurate, but doesn't do it a modicum of justice.
Yeah, it's like a temple. It's like a temple run where you have a grappling hook, and it's like a daily run kind of thing, right?
All accurate, just not.
It's like a first-person action game, right?
It's asynchronous multiplayer where everybody does a run, and you're racing each other, and whoever gets furthest wins. Is that right?
Kind of. Yeah. Like,
so it's a Soulsborne, right?
Definitely.
So it's a love letter to old Hollywood.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I draw the line there. Although, I mean, I guess it is drawing inspiration from Temple of Doom and games like that. So,
old pulps. Yeah.
Yeah. So probably. Yeah. What the hell is this game? I honestly, the itch that it scratched for me is I've never known what to call this genre. I think the closest I've gotten is like the gun ballet genre, where it is a very platforming centric first person game.
Okay.
Not quite Mirror's Edge, but if you guys remember me ever talking about like Dead Core or Lovely Planet, it's like in that genre of games, except as you guys all pointed out, instead of having a gun, you have a whip. Yeah. Which acts as one part kind of pseudo short range weapon, and one part grappling hook.
Okay.
I guess the thing that makes this unique from other platforming games of its ilk is that everything is procedurally generated. And when you drop into a temple, only one person in the world will ever finish that temple. So, there's some kind of random generation algorithm that designs these temples. You'll grow to kind of recognize rooms and patterns within the temple. So, it's not completely original every time through, but it's definitely enough to keep you on your toes. And once someone actually gets to the end of that temple and grabs the relic at the end, no one will ever play that again. And when you drop in, it tells you how many people have gone before you.
Oh, okay.
And you can see their phantoms running ahead of you, like souls, and so it is a Soulsborne.
Well, it's like a ghost race. Oh my god, it's a ghost car. Yeah, no, it's The Simpsons. But it's like a ghost race in like Mario Kart or something like that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Not that you're necessarily trying to beat them; it's actually distinctively to your advantage to make sure you're behind them.
Oh, to observe them, yeah, because they're going to
watch. Yeah. You know that they don't make it through. So watching them die can be very helpful. Or there's little like ... trails behind them. So you can kind of see if someone goes into a hidden area that might highlight it for you in a way that you wouldn't have otherwise noticed, which is great. But there is no more badass feeling than dropping into a temple and seeing like 300 plus people have attempted this before you and then being the one to get to the end. And it's always... Mm-hmm. I've finished 3 or 4 at this point.
Nice.
And there's like you're trying to collect a whole bunch of relics. It's a very story light game, but you're trying to collect a whole bunch of different relics. And something happens once you fill up all the relics. But you can see there's probably like 50-ish slots for relics just in the room that I'm in. When you start in the hub area. So it's expected that you are going to finish these. But I've never dropped into a temple that had less than 100 people before me tried it.
Yeah.
And that just makes you feel so cool to know that you're literally in the 1%, sometimes even less, to actually get to the end of this. So yeah, just a really cool design for the game. Like by sheer numbers, everyone is going to be the first to finish some temples, because you're only being put in temples that have never been beaten before. But just the design of the way it kind of shows you who has gone before makes you feel like a god, like makes you feel so cool when you do succeed. And you will succeed a minority of the time. I die way more than I finish. There's also like, there's several different modes you can play, and the one I'm playing in, like basically every run it scores you, and there's an amount of penalty points for dying, and then there's bonus points for like how far you got and how many collectibles you found and all this stuff if you actually finished it. And so for most of my time playing, your score pretty progressively goes up and up and up, and it kind of builds your level. Eventually it gets to the point where like if you die in the first couple rooms, which is going to happen, you'll actually lose reputation. and your level will go down. And the complexity and difficulty of the temples, as far as I can tell, scales to your level. So the relics kind of inherently are going to get harder and harder to get as you get better and better at the game. And as you level up, it throws new, more difficult rooms and patterns and obstacles at you.
Yeah.
So really just ingenious game design from making the player feel cool, from like progressively introducing fresh elements and keeping things challenging. I've been blown away with every second of it. And the platforming is as good as platforming in first person can be.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
So it's awful.
So you have a sense of your body when you're doing these moves, right?
Yeah, it's awful, but you have a grappling hook, so it's passable. And throughout you can also, you always start just able to, whip once to grapple while you're in the air, and otherwise you fall. You have to time a button press if you fall from high enough to roll and not take fall damage. And then throughout the levels, you'll find shrines. And if you've collected enough money, which oftentimes you have to do more risky things to collect money. But if you've collected enough money, you can buy upgrades that would let you double jump or whip a second time in air. So you can kind of combo Spider-Man swing while you're platforming. Or the one that I like a lot is it's basically feather fall. So if you just hold spacebar when you would otherwise fall, you can, just fall slowly and not take damage.
It's Princess Peach.
Yeah. And honestly, that the upgrades feel very impactful, because particularly that featherfall one, suddenly it becomes a game of like, all right, where's the highest point at the start of the room, and then I will just jump from that as far into the room as I can to kind of sweep past as much of the platforming as I can. So that's good. The grappling feels good. The mantling is very generous. So if you're anywhere near a ledge and pushing in towards it, you'll kind of grab it and hop up onto the thing.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So is the economy and the upgrades are just specific for the single temple you're in, right?
Correct.
It's only gold. Okay.
They don't stick around. The money and the upgrades don't stick around past a single temple. The thing that can be changed between runs is your whip. So you start out just with a whip, and there's nothing special about it. Every time you grab a relic, you prestige that whip, and I think make a new whip available. And I'm not sure if that's an every time thing or if it's tied to your level or what. I'm still figuring out the systems. But the other whips will have kind of a positive and a negative. It's never a straight upside. But it'll be something like, you can whip a guardian to banish it for a second. I'll get to guardians in a second, but every time you buy an upgrade, you lose half a point of health. So the one that I'm using right now is upgrades cost X% less, but you have one less heart to start the run with.
Yeah.
And it's all, so it all. Really, it's because every temple is randomly generated. It's completely arbitrary what whip you start with. It's just kind of like what flavor do you want to have to deal with during the run. But then beating a run with a new whip. I think I might have just said this. Prestiges the whip, like gives you a new version of that whip, and has other rewards. So you kind of want to go through and beat it with different whips.
Oh, I see. So if you beat two different temples with the same whip, you get no effect the second time. Right.
Yeah. Nothing crazy happens.
Okay.
So that leads me to the Guardians. Every temple is divided into multiple floors, which are kind of bespoke levels. And at least after the first floor, you will have a temple guardian start harassing you. And the first one I encountered it's a giant floating head that when you get, partway through the temple, it appears at the beginning and starts floating towards you through walls, through obstacles, like nothing stops it. It is just always moving at you. at a consistent, like, I think it's like 3 meters a second or something.
It's kind of like the ghost that comes after you if you stick around too long in Spelunky, right?
Yes, or the Yeti in Ski Free, like just this immutable horror that's chasing you down. And so you kind of always have to stay on the move. And if you want to stay in a room and kind of puzzle out where the secret areas are, where the gold is, which is important, you're going to have to also plan around dodging this head that's chasing you. The other ones I've encountered, there's one that just will appear and kind of fire a lock-on laser beam at you. So it's like you make sure you stay in motion. And then another one that spawns and kind of pumps out a bunch of gas bombs. Almost like an area denial thing. So like if it spawns in a corridor, it's really dicey. You kind of just got to book it. And the traps in these levels are really deviously placed. It's like spike traps and swinging axes and blow darts in the walls and all the Indiana Jones things.
Yeah.
Haven't encountered any giant rolling boulders yet, unfortunately.
I would be surprised if one doesn't make an appearance.
It should. It's like a moral thing. This is an obligation.
It's on principle.
Yeah. But anyway, like if you're trying to move through the level at any speed, it is very easy to just not see something. And until you hear the click and you're like, I'm fucked. Every trap has some kind of audio cue that's like the second before it goes off. And like 1 out of 10 times you're just on the edge enough that you can react. 9 out of 10 times it just means you're screwed. But it has the effect of like making you jump. It's not a jump scare, but it's the same kind of adrenaline surge.
Yeah.
And particularly, I can see where the arc of this headed to where it's not just enough to finish a temple. You want to finish it quickly. And you can actually see that there's a daily challenge where you're rated, everyone gets the same temple and you're rated on how fast or how far you get.
Gotcha.
So I can see this just becoming a really crazy intricate game to play at speed. So it's been a ton of fun. Highly recommend checking out Phantom Abyss.
Nice. It's good to hear good things about that because I saw the announcement a couple years ago, maybe a year ago. Time is meaningless, but I saw it and then I heard nobody talk about it. So to have it pop back up and hear that there are people playing it, and that it is cool and seems as well designed, that the design can back up kind of the initial, oh, that seems neat.
This is early in the game. It seems like they've come out of an alpha because I saw some people on the Discord mentioning like, oh, this system isn't a thing anymore. That system isn't a thing anymore, but it's also a game preview. What's really funny and was like a peek behind the curtain, I found this late at night. I forget exactly what day it was, but it was kind of one of those last ditch, like, I'm about to hit the sack, but I downloaded this and I'll try it before I went to bed. And, there's a link to their Discord. So I just popped in and was like, hey, this is really cool. I found it on Game Pass. And the moderator was like, oh God, it's up on Game Pass already?
Oh, so like it rolled over at like midnight and they didn't know.
Yeah, something like that. So hilariously, you would think that, something going up on Game Pass is this big momentous thing that they plan around. Apparently there's a level of uncertainty on when it will show up.
Oh, weird.
It's just like I said, just an interesting little peek behind the curtain there. That's Phantom Abyss.
Nice.
And then I've continued doing, I talked a little bit last week about my community decides playthrough of Slay the Spire, where, one move a day, effectively one turn a day. And then I just leave it up to the community to vote. This is on Reddit. And that's been a ton of fun. People in general have been really cool and excited to play along. It's just super fun. But that has meant that I can't really play the game because I started this on my main account. And theoretically this could take years if we don't die, like literal years. That's not an exaggeration. And so I needed my card game fix. And, Hearthstone was the game I played before, but fuck Blizzard. So I downloaded Magic the Gathering Arena.
Uh-oh. Dennis, what did I tell you?
I texted Ben about it and he said, please don't. And I sent him back the Isildur No. But fun fact, and this is public information, so I can talk about it. Lauren Brown, the illustrator for Deck of Wonders, just took a position at Wizards of the Coast.
Oh, hell yeah.
Cool.
Nice.
So that's like her next gig. Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. So I'm blown away, and she is amazing and has earned every single part of that. And I'm so excited for her. But it put Magic the Gathering on the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And I have officially put my hand on that stove.
Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, it bears saying there are people who love you, Dennis. You don't have to do this.
Yeah. There's also people who love Magic the Gathering. I think they're going to be more excited
Okay.
than the people who want to see me retain my sanity. But yeah, so now we're about to delve into a ton of words, I assume that only Ben and I will recognize.
When you guys do this, I just pretend that like you're talking about some kind of church I've never heard of.
It's cult would probably be the better word.
I was being kind.
Yeah, please, Magic the Gathering does not deserve your sympathy. I've enjoyed it.
I was being
There's something I ask every Magic player when I meet somebody who I know who plays Magic for the first time, and I ask like, what color combination describes your personality? Because for somebody who plays Magic, like that's what you have. That's what we have instead of astrology, essentially. But
sure,
you can understand a person very quickly after they tell you what color combination describes them.
That's funny.
What's your answer for that and why?
Blue, black. I don't want to talk about why.
because as a guess, based on my little knowledge, for me I would say blue, black, but I don't know.
Blue is
a reckoning.
Blue is spells and stuff, right?
Yeah, sure.
Control, flying,
creatures, spells.
Oh, see, I thought creatures was like red and green.
No, I mean all colors have creatures and all colors have spells. So
it's like blue is like counterspelly and tricksy and and then has a lot of flying. I've learned, which
blue,
is
white.
annoying to deal with.
So
And
which one
then-
just has like gremlins?
Red.
Yeah, that's the Zerg Rush class. Which funnily you and everyone else, Ben, told me start with red, because then like red is pure aggression. Like you are just trying to do the thing to the other person, and they have to react to you.
It's also a way to get really quick games, so you can learn the rules really quickly that way.
Yeah, well, and the way I forget if it was you or someone else described it to me is you learn a lot by watching how other classes handle you. Like just watching the different ways that classes respond to aggression tells you a lot about that class.
Yeah. First time you learn about a sweeper, like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, great. So actually, my experience, I was playing on the app on my phone and on an iPad, and the tutorial is really smooth. Like the on-ramp for a new player, I really appreciated. They do a great job walking you through, how to play the game, what everything means, and then it's a series of color challenges. So I think you do white, blue, black, red, green. And each one kind of steps you further and further into the mechanics, and there's little tooltips for everything as you're going through. But you play a series of, I think it's like 4 or 5 challenges against an AI opponent that of a different color. So you play white so it's 4 white versus every other color, and then blue versus every other color. But then the final game, the 5th game, is against an actual opponent, just with your starter deck. And I thought that was really cool. That it's like 4 AI games that progressively kind of show you what to do, and then cue you in for just one game with a pre-made deck against an opponent. And that went really well. And then you're off to the races. It gave me a starter deck when I finished the tutorial that was red-green, and so that's just where I started. But it was a werewolf deck.
Yeah.
Does that mean anything to you, Ben?
It's probably one of the more recent sets. I think they had like a Eldritch Horror set a few sets ago. Yeah.
So basically, I loved the tutorial up to that point because, well, first off, all the tutorial decks, I guess, are made from like original classic cards. So when you try to look at that deck for their like standard mode, which I think is just the most recent sets, none of the tutorial decks can be played in the standard mode. So that first off, that feels like a middle finger of like, okay, this is what we taught you. Now go do something else.
Yeah. What is that tutorializing?
Yeah. And then
that's
the deck
tutorializing life.
Yeah. The deck that they gave, this red-green werewolf deck, werewolves are when you play a werewolf, or when you play it says daybound or nightbound it's not technically a werewolf. Daybound and nightbound, it adds another card to the play area that purely tracks whether it's day or night. And there's like really obscure rules for when it becomes day and when it becomes night. And some cards actually actively change that. And it just felt like, okay, we taught you the game. Now here's a deck that has 10 other systems going on in it.
And
that
those
you need to try to play.
Those are systems specifically for that set. So like
right.
Many things do not interact with that at all. So
right. But literally my first game with the deck, I lost turns just because I was reading and I could not read fast enough and puzzle out. And then there's all these cards that have, Magic has a bunch of steps, and spells, instants, can be played at any time. And so basically there's all these like check steps where you do something and it needs to check with the opponent. The opponent does something and it needs to check with you to see if you want to play anything. Mm-hmm. But that just hadn't happened at a level in the tutorial that I saw in actual play.
Oh no.
So there's two modes on our arena. One where it'll literally ask you for everything. And then there's one where it kind of like skirts past that. And you have to be responsible for making stops if you want to do something.
Yeah, mine is at the full stop at every point, whether or not you have something you can actually do.
So it's Control Shift, I think, is what turns that on and off.
Okay, I'll look for that on my iPhone.
So like, because yeah, sorry. But like, if you don't have that on, it's a little bit easier. Where like, if someone else is casting something, it'll ask if you want to like do something, like do an instant response to that, or you can like have a prompt then. But in between all the stages, it doesn't prompt you each time. Like, okay, like you're passing priority right now. Are you going to do anything? Like, it doesn't prompt you then at all. It kind of puts that in your court to stop the game if you want to do something.
Got it. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, all those extra steps and then having cards that interact with those steps and the additional mechanics added by the deck, it was just trial by fire. Yeah. And I think I must have been playing with people that were as new as I was because I've won, I think, all but one of my first 5 games, but just felt on the back foot the entire time.
It's they have matchmaking and stuff, so it'll probably put you with people who are at the same level.
Yeah.
Does it give you an explicit, was it like ELO score or whatever?
No, I don't know unless they've changed it.
There's a ranked mode. And then
you have like bronze and silver and stuff like that, but it's not an ELO score.
Okay. So there's probably one behind the scenes though, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, once I finally started figuring out this red-green deck, I kind of like, I liked the things that it was doing and it felt fun to play once I understood it. But it was like this amazing on-ramp, 3 to 4 games of just sheer panic and feeling like I had no idea what was going on. And then everything started to even out. Yeah, so that's been my experience with Magic the Gathering so far. I already have a bunch of people being like, oh, I'll walk you through a draft. First hit's free. Yeah, so I've got more than enough prying eyes excited to see me get into this. But it has been a fun experience.
I'll walk you through a draft if they have Cube up, but otherwise not worth your time.
Wait, yeah. Cuba?
Cube up.
Yeah.
Like a cube.
Yeah. So that's what I've been playing this week.
Cool. Well, hopefully you can keep your head above water.
Yeah. Or at least have fun drowning.
Oh man, I've got one and only one. So over the past weekend, finished playing Scorn.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sweet!
Yes, finished the stream, and my feelings got a little bit more complicated, but I am still on the very positive side about this game. Everything I said last weekend, or last episode, it remains true. This is a beautiful game. I love how mysterious and lonely and aimless it is. Like the actual stuff that you do and the things you see are really cool. The combat, I am still in favor of. I still, I mean, in general, if you treat it like it is a survival horror game where it is about running from enemies you can and learning how to, let's say, exploit enemy behavior patterns to get them into vulnerable situations so you can take them out with a minimum of resources expended, then you're gonna have a good time with it, right? Like that works. Like I, all of that still holds true for me. I never came into this expecting anything different, really. What has complicated it is there is a boss encounter very near the end, probably about like a half hour before the end. It is your last real combat encounter that you do that you do in there that made me so mad that I had to stop streaming that night. Yeah.
That's a rough watch as well.
And for people who watch my streams, Ben, you can confirm whether or not this is true. I believe that I am a patient man.
Yeah. I mean, you put up with us for this many years, so yeah.
Yeah. So I believe I'm a patient man. It's but yeah, I got angry. So I'm not going to give like details about what specifically you're doing or what you're fighting, but more so just as like a warning for folks. You'll know the boss encounter when you get to it because it is very clearly like the boss encounter that you do. You're going to fight it, and there are multiple different kind of strategies for the first phase, and the second phase is a little bit trickier in terms of what it's going to do. Understand that this is a game that automatically checkpoints. Okay, this is not a game where you have a quick save. This is not a game where you can do save slots. I don't think the game would be hurt if you did either of the above. Like, I think that would be fine. I think it's just them being punitive or trying to, enforce a level of difficulty. And I'm not generally for that, but it's not a problem. Not a problem for the majority of the game. Go ahead.
They could even have good motivations, and like maybe it's more they would think it's more immersive if they made the game that way.
Yeah, it's not something that I held against them before before this incident. So. You finish the two phases and you think that you're done, and you pick up a new weapon, and then you end up having you do a second boss fight.
Play it again, okay. Sam.
Yeah, play it again, and you probably have already used all of your little healing items and stuff. And the wall charger for the healing only has one charge in it, so you're kind of screwed as far as that goes. Yeah, so I figured, all right, well, it ends up being a shorter fight, but I got through it. That's fine. Whatever. The problem is, if you leave that encounter with basically the condition where you're going to be most likely to be, which is very little health. Like I had like one little bar of health left. Yeah. And no ammo. If you don't like go to the thing to get more ammo for this new gun that you have, which you are locked into using, then you go into an area where the only option to move forward is something that drains your health for time, and there is not enough. There is not enough health in your bar to get you to either a healing station or to a refill on the ammo. Right. So I die. And where does it take me back to? Like, what does it do? It takes me back to right before the second phase of the boss fight.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Terrible. I find it inconceivable that I find it inconceivable that they tested this encounter and said, yeah, this is tuned right. I also find it inconceivable that like nobody ran into this exact situation and they didn't put a fix in. It is a very bad experience to have so close to the end of this game. That makes an incredibly good first impression, and like the middle stretch is going to test kind of like, is this going to be the kind of game for you? But like a game this short, the last impression is really important, and this left a very bad, like this encounter that ended my session, and I had to pick up the straggling few minutes the next day. Really kind of cast a pall over what should have been like a pretty majestic ending, all things told. Like it's pretty cool, but it was just kind of just somebody farted in the elevator, and that was the devs. So
to be fair, I think you're supposed to play test from like front to back to try and make sure like the first impression's good, and that might have been what happened here. But yeah, that checkpointing is pretty inexcusable though.
Yeah, so like I like the game a lot, but like I can't unless they fix this, and unless I hear that it's fixed. I like every time I recommend it, it's going to be there. It's gonna come along with, oh, there is a boss encounter toward the end that is really some bullshit. So like walk into it forewarned and forearmed, because blah. Yeah, so I wish that I had, kind of like a more, generally positive thing, because like all of the other downsides that I said were like, oh yeah, I can see how like a notional person would be like not down for this, especially if they walked into it with a different expectation than I had. But like this is like, oh yeah, everything about this is for me, and then the game makes a fool of me for being in love with it for the rest of it.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Honeymoon's over.
Yeah.
There's some kind of artistic irony in that. I like that a little bit. Yeah. Good. It was a beautiful ending too. I don't want to say anything about it, but it was the art style was good throughout, at least.
Yeah.
I think we were talking about this before the pre-roll, but it's like I think this game proves that if you have a strong enough art style, you can still make a good game, even if the gameplay is like dog shit. But this one, I'm not sure where it lies. So.
It's different currencies that spend differently with different people, right? Yeah. I'm usually pretty play forward, but like I didn't necessarily mind the play in this, like some other folks do. So it's hard for me to pretend to be a different person. Yeah. Any other questions about Scorn?
How much would it need to cost for it to be like a good, like, yeah, it's worth that price sort of thing?
Oh, one Game Pass.
Yeah, one Game Pass. Like if you have, and if you just have a PS5 or PS4, you're screwed. But like if you have an Xbox Series X and a PC, like you can get a month of Game Pass for $1 if it's your first month. And even the regular Game Pass is like $16, and you can beat this in 2 sittings and then go play other stuff. Like I think that improves I think that it improves the value proposition for this actually. Whereas like the fact that it is $40 out of the gate, like I don't know, for me I could say $40 is worth it for that, but like for somebody who believes that they might be on a fence, I would say your better chance is being out sometime on a monthly Game Pass charge, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what I have. Let's see, David, how about you?
So I guess to start with, I played a little bit of Scorn.
Oh, okay.
Not very, very long. Basically, I got far enough to, I don't know, go up an elevator and do some sort of slidey puzzle that gave me an egg person.
Yeah. So you were still in the prologue.
Right, exactly. So I haven't made it very far, but it looks pretty cool.
Yeah. Nobody can argue with that.
I feel like they could stand to make your run speed at least twice as fast.
Yeah.
And also to add a toggled run option.
Agreed. Yeah.
Maybe that's how they... Oh, good. I was gonna say maybe that's how they stretch the game time of it.
Maybe the people do weird things to stretch game time. I also wish that when you held sprint, it sped up your strafing as well. It does not, and there are certain encounters where that would be very welcome.
Yeah. So honestly, that's all I have. Like it looks cool. Yeah. That's yeah. That's that.
Play more.
Yes, I shall. Other than that, I've been deep diving on Deep Rock Galactic.
Okay.
Hey.
So yeah, I had played a ton of it on Steam, but Steam apparently doesn't like crossplay. And so now I'm on Xbox, so I'm kind of catching up to where I was. Mainly playing as the scout because, as mentioned last time, it gets a grappling hook.
Okay.
Also, actually, strangely enough, it gets both your main like team source of light, which is I guess a flare launcher that'll like stick in walls.
Okay.
And also better flares than everyone else.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
That makes sense for a scout. Like you go ahead and light the way and say, "Hey, this is the way to go." Yeah.
It does, but just the end result is it makes all the other classes just feel unplayable to me because not only am I dramatically slower, but I can't see where I'm going. So that's kind of weird, but I'm going through. There's a series of various kind of tutorial series missions where they basically walk you through all the different game modes and a bunch of the different regions and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I completed that. I also tried one of the new game modes they added for this season, or maybe last season, I'm not sure, which is kind of the plot line for this season is that a rival mining company has shown up on Hoxus, the planet you're mining, and they mine entirely with robots, and so you basically have to go and sabotage their system.
Oh, you're a Luddite. Yeah.
Exactly. And kind of the cool thing is it ends with just a massive boss fight, which really isn't something the game's done before. Like there are some levels where it's, take out, say 2 or 3 of these, very large, powerful bugs. But, this is full on like a, multi-stage boss fight. So, it's initially... It's, this stationary target, this robot core you're fighting, and it's got kind of Dr. Octopus arms that attack you.
Okay. And
then eventually it starts shooting out kind of these walls of energy that you have to dodge, bullet hell style. And then finally it starts teleporting bombs next to you, so you just have to constantly stay on the move. And so it becomes, I guess, effectively almost like a bullet hell shooter.
This doesn't sound like any other part of this game that I've heard about.
No, It is a very different experience, but it's a lot of fun, very, very exciting. But yeah, there's also a mode that I hadn't played before that is a escort mission where you're basically escorting / riding on this drill dozer that's just drilling, straight through this, this area. And every so often it'll kind of break into a cave and you'll have to go and, gather fuel or things like that. And you have to keep it repaired, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, again, a lot of fun in terms of just having a very dramatically different set piece you're playing with.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, just, it's fun shooting bugs and, mining loots.
Nice. Are you playing it with like a particular set of people, or is this kind of just playing with puppies?
I'm playing some with Dennis, and then just kind of when I have free time, just jump into a game or two, mainly just to kind of get through some of the busy work.
Mm-hmm.
What class does Dennis play as?
What's your go-to?
Driller is my main. The driller, and then the engineer is the thing that I kind of fall back on.
Yeah, the engineer is the one class I just straight up can't play. Like, just does not work for me.
Interesting.
Ironic.
But the driller is a lot of fun just because that then like walls become more like suggestions.
Yes. Well, and that's what's so much fun about this game is like you can run along the caves and kind of follow the design of a level, quote unquote, I guess. But really, you can go anywhere, and you can solve problems in some really creative ways.
Yeah, and it seems to me like I last played in early access, and it seems like since then they've kind of done some tweaks to make their level generation a lot more variable because I had a level yesterday that was almost completely vertical. It was just one or two big rooms, but with lots of like crossing beams of stone and natural bridges and things like that. And that's something I'd never seen before.
Yep, and like the other kind of level that I'd never seen before playing, because I played a tiny little bit in early access, was just like a giant cavern, like one huge cavern that you're trying to find kind of the ways up the wall for.
Mm-hmm.
Or not, if you're the driller.
Or then the driller is a little less useful. But you get good at kind of approximating where you think you are relative to the main cavern and kind of drilling along the side of the wall.
Nice.
Yeah, I still haven't gotten a chance to play this time around my favorite variant, which is the Haunted Cave. Have you played that yet, Dennis?
No, I haven't even heard of it.
So the largest, or one of the largest enemies is, actually, I forget what it's called. Is it just like the Glyphic Horror or whatever? It's just this massive armored bug.
Glyphid, maybe?
Glyphid, yes. And in the Haunted is, there's various kind of modifiers that can randomly be applied to levels. And the Haunted one, there's one of those, except that it's a ghost, so you can't kill it. So it's just constantly following you throughout the whole level.
Interesting. So Nemesis kind of deal.
Right. And those are fun. I actually, one of my favorite experiences was soloing one of those levels as a scout, where you're just constantly using your grappling hook to like stay one step ahead of this enemy.
It sounds like Phantom Abyss.
Yeah, it does, kind of.
Yeah, maybe you can like do some cross training. Use the skills in one to benefit the other.
Yeah,
that works for me.
Nice. Do you have anything else?
Nope, that's all I got.
Cool. Ben, how about you? What you been playing?
Yeah, the main one that I've been playing is I've continued playing Tunic, which I think I talked about last week.
Yeah.
I've beaten 2 of the bosses. I'm at the stage right now where there's basically like 3 bosses I need to beat before I can go to the end game. So I beat the one that I was stuck on last week. I beat another one, and now I'm on a third one, and it kind of sucks. Kind of makes me not want to play the game, but I don't know. Shrug. Game's still pretty. I think I have most of the map covered. There's certain parts of the game that kind of give you indication about how far you are through the progress of the game, I guess. And with that indication, I'm pretty much 100%. So I assume that after I beat this boss, there's probably like a final boss, and then that's it. but not entirely sure. And then also just not sure like how long I want to grind the game. Even before I got to the boss that I'm at now, there's like an area you go to where when you first get there, there's a mechanic that that you haven't seen up until that point. That's kind of punishing, where it basically reduces your HP, your max HP, to 1 if you don't if you're around a certain thing. And they don't exactly like tell you how you might be able to beat this, I guess. And so it's like, well, should I not be here? I'm not sure. Like, should I have found something before I got to this place? I'm not sure.
And this isn't the kind of not tell you that the rest of the game is kind of built around, right?
Yeah, correct. Like, there's things that are in the guidebook about the area you're in, but none of them seem to point to that unless I missed it. Or perhaps there's like a page I should have collected and I missed, and then that's might be why I don't see it. But it's like, it's hard to tell, you know? So that's kind of like a disappointing, like, kind of last area to go to, because so eventually I just had the result to be like, okay, like, what do I need to do to like get past this or whatever, and just look it up online. Which I don't really like doing that as a way to interact with the game. So that was a bit disappointing, but I don't know, it is what it is. So yeah, that's kind of like how the game's been, though, is it's not too long of a game. I think I'm 8 hours into it. So I'm guessing that this is probably like 10 hours max. And the presentation's good. And like, to the game's credit, they do a good job of trying to think of like diegetic ways for you to be blocked and then for you to unblock them to try and make it a little bit better than like a Metroid, where it's just like, oh, you can get through ice doors with this gun. We'll give you this gun now, or something like that. So it is like, there are parts of that are good. But yeah, on the whole, it just feels like there's maybe not enough there. And what is there is kind of like, I don't know. It's like, I'm not sure how they balance the game, but it does feel like it's like, all right, let's just stick a hard boss here, and then like, that'll be it.
And just call it the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Scorn effect.
Yeah. And so I don't know. Anyway, I'm counting down the days for God of War to come out, so I have like a good game to play. is the end of it, I guess.
Right.
So, yeah, that's Tunic in a nutshell. Yeah, and I don't know. I would say that like Death's Door, I think I had a better experience with than this game. Even though
I've heard more unreserved nice things about Death's Door. Yeah.
Like, the presentation in that is even better, and the game isn't as hurtful, I guess. And there's more to it. There's more, like, the maps are more fleshed out, and there's, like, more enemies and stuff like that. And there's more maps and stuff like that. So, yeah. So that's kind of like a sad note. Even though I haven't ended the game, this is, like, kind of like what it feels like. Or it feels like it's an end note to the game is what I'm experiencing now. So,
yeah.
Yeah, shrug. I don't know. I'll talk about other stuff, I guess. I started playing Satisfactory for a little bit again. I started a new run through. They had an update, I think, in September. I made one factory. I tried a starting location I hadn't tried before, which is not necessarily harder, but the way that it describes it is there's more vertical changes in the map. Like, there's a lot of height changes to where you start, but the resources are more pure there, which means like your drillers will produce more resources per minute than other places. So it sounded like just a trade-off of you just need to build more efficient like factory designs, or be more mindful that there's fewer places that you can actually like drill from, and so you just need to be more mindful of like the factories you build there. So I built like basically a starter base. I got to the coal phase where you can automate power, so you don't need to like manually feed it.
Don't have to feed it biomass.
Yeah, and I set up like 2 factories from that, one to make the advanced plates and one to make rotors. Then my power tripped, and I tried looking for a second power source. But there's a water location I can go in one direction that's kind of far away, and there's a coal that's in another direction that's far away. And I just don't want to build across the entire map right now. So, so I think my run has ended with that one at least.
No.
Well, yeah, because it's
Can you supplement with a biomass burner?
I'm not going to do that. I definitely rush the power anytime I play this game, because the manual upkeep this game is such a good approximation for software development. I feel like, but it's you shouldn't ever do anything manually. Like, if there's anything you can automate, you need to do that. And so
the object of this game is not to play it.
Well, yeah, it's about factories. Factories are automated. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that you say that it is such a good model for software development, because it is absolutely at a certain point about technical debt too.
Yes. Yeah.
Mistakes that you don't even realize are mistakes, you'll be paying for them in hours by ripping shit out to refactor it entirely.
See, I feel like if you ever actually fix the technical debt, if they ever let you do that, then it's nothing like software development.
Yeah, I imagine you don't actually have that happen until you send all your shit up the space elevator and satisfy your requirements.
It's like fantasy fulfillment. Is that the term for it? Or dream fulfillment or something? That's what this game is, because it's but if you play it a second time, you do know what's coming, so you can, create this perfect thing. And so it's this is what you dream of with software development. It's of course I knew I could build this factory and it wouldn't be a problem, 6 hours later. Whereas my first run through, instead of spaghetti code, you have spaghetti vents everywhere. Where fuck, well, put a conveyor belt over here, I guess, and try and make this work.
In fairness, it makes it very easy to do spaghetti conveyor belts.
Yes. But I mean, I'm happy with my playthroughs now, because now it's all very weird and German and anal retentive, where it's all right, I'm going to look at the exact number of resources I can produce in this area. I'm gonna plan ahead the exact number of rotors per minute I can make from it. I'm gonna make a factory in this area that produces that, and just sticks them in a box, and then I'll go do something somewhere else, and then I won't ever have to worry about rotors again. They'll all be here, that sort of thing. So it does provide that sort of fulfillment, whatever that is. But I think if I were to keep playing, I'll probably just restart and start at a new location again, either the first or second location. But I think that at least scratched my itch for the time being, and I don't think I'll do that anytime soon. But it's still a really fun experience. I really enjoyed playing it again, going back to it. At some point, I would like to go back and go all the way to the end ages that they've added. But that takes a bit of time. So
I love that game, and I have been fighting. I know I don't have time for it. I've been fighting the urge to pick it back up ever since they hit 1.0.
Yeah. They do have multiplayer, and when you think of terms of efficiency, it's if I play with 4 players, then I'll be able to get there 4 times as fast.
I mean, the building will happen 4 times as fast, but so much happens while you're waiting for stuff to extract. Yeah. Huh.
Interesting game, that one.
A pox on you for bringing this back to mind.
Sorry. I think you played it before I did, so
yes.
Yeah. I don't know.
No, I played this back in 2019. After it first released, and I was on the alpha build. Yeah. Nice. So Tunic and Satisfactory, that all? All right.
Multiplayer.
Now it is time for the multiplayer, where we ask you a question and then you answer it. Dennis, what is the question that you ask the nice people?
Yeah, this one went out to all the masochists out there. Have you ever self-imposed challenges to make a game more interesting? What did you do, and how did it go?
Yeah. I'll get started here with David, who says, when I play Fear 1, I like to try to not use the bullet time ability, basically slow motion, and I'll use single handgun until I run out of ammo for it. I don't know, it just kind of makes me feel like John Wick. The gunplay and AI in that game is awesome.
So, Funnily enough, I didn't really play the single player, but in the multiplayer, the single handgun was my most preferred weapon.
Okay.
Because it fires quicker than the dual handguns.
That's weird.
Yeah, because you're firing one hand then the other, so there's kind of a bit of a pause.
Okay.
But you actually, the only way to get it is to kill someone that has it equipped in multiplayer. Kill someone that has it equipped and pick up their weapon, and you'll only pick up one of them.
Oh, so like out of the box, you have two of them, then you have to kill them and get one.
Right, yeah. So you can't just choose to spawn with two of them, or with one of them, rather.
And you can't just, there's no button to like drop the one. That is really weird.
I mean, it was a very, it came out about the time we were freshmen in college.
True.
So.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the pre-WIC days.
Pre-WIC.
PW. Yeah. Ben, what does Callum say?
Callum says, the only one I can think of is doing Final Fantasy Tactics without the named characters with the special classes.
That is a good one. Classic and time-tested. Yeah. I mean, especially, doing one without Thunder God Sid is Sid breaks things. So, yeah. Yeah. David, what does Greg say?
Greg says, as a kid in the 80s, I only had a handful of games for my Atari 2600, NES, Commodore 64, and PC. It helped that my mom managed a video store where I helped select the NES games they rented and got first crack at them when they came in. But still, there was a lot of free time and only so many games. So I'd often try to make it through a game on one life. There are numerous NES games I did that with. Mega Man 2, Castlevania, Contra, and Life Force come to mind. 30-something years later, and I can still beat those games without continuing, despite old man reflexes.
Doing that on Castlevania is really hard.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah. Nice. Dennis, what does Ollie say?
Ollie says the Hitman trilogy on last generation consoles has a lot of inbuilt challenge runs, Silent Assassin, No Change Clothing, etc., which are all great. There is also enough of the sandbox to allow you to just make up your own. My favorite was a run through the story missions killing every major target by blowing them up with a fire extinguisher.
Yep.
A ton of fun. Someone please explain.
Seems pretty clear. You put a fire extinguisher next to them and then you hit it and then it blows up because it's pressurized.
Ah.
Yeah.
Does that register differently? Is it like, well, it was death by explosion, not death by gunfire, so
I assume there are probably other ways to make it work. I forget if you can make them explode by throwing them.
I think I've seen this on the Video Game Donkey video, this where it's like a family photo and he blows up and then you take a picture of them as they're dying.
That's one of them. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you can at least in Hitman 3 there is a way to King Ralph an entire family. Yeah. Yeah, Hitman's good. Jeremy says, Dark Souls 1 naked and no shield run. But I don't think it's that challenging because you get into the rolling vibe pretty quick, and after beating the game 5 times, it's mostly muscle memory. Naked and dex run. Yes, sir. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, and you're fast rolling at that point too, and no shield is a common second run through. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a good one. And Ben, what does David say?
David says, the closest I've come to this is making Chrono Trigger characters in Dark Souls. For Marl, crossbows and miracles only. In Robo, the heaviest of armors, Castus in both hands, and Lightning Spear for the bosses. Both were fun builds.
Oh, that's creative. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like that one. That's cool. And you can do the character customization too, to make them look like they're folks. You couldn't do Luca unless you were in Bloodborne though, because of the guns.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I really don't do challenge runs very much, so I'm going to throw in on this one and say still Dark Souls, but Dark Souls with the randomizer mod. I did that, which is really, really satisfying. And I kind of can't wait until there's a functional randomizer mod for Elden Ring.
Yeah.
What exactly does it do? Is
So
it
the
enemy placement or?
Everything. No. So the randomizer mod for Dark Souls, it randomizes item placement. So enemy positions are the same. So like wherever an enemy was, there will be an enemy, but like which enemy it is randomized. So you could be in the undead burg, and it could be spawning in like those shitty wyverns from the Valley of the Drakes.
How high up does it go? Does it could you get a random boss in there?
There are options where you can just have bosses spawn. So you could just roll in, and every instance of like every instance of just like a regular hollow could be just Gwyn running straight at you.
Oh no,
ready to kill you.
Oh no.
Yeah. But you can keep bosses in their in their respective places. Which is which is the right way to do it, and boss placement is like boss placement is randomized as well. So you end up with like really interesting stuff, like Seath or the gaping dragon on the rooftop of the cathedral. You end up with like stuff that doesn't fit in Capra's arena,
like the Moonlight
Capra's
Butterfly.
arena. Yeah. You end up with like really crazy stuff like that, or you end up with stuff where like you enter the arena and it dies instantly because Ornstein spawned where the Moonlight Butterfly should, and so he falls to his death. Stuff like that.
Excellent.
Yeah. So it like that kind of just barely counts as a.
I like that you thought that the Moonlight Butterfly couldn't be any easier of a boss fight until the randomizer. It's like,
yeah. But it's also hard to call it like harder because you're not doing this unless you know the bosses, and also like the pickups are randomized as well. So like you could get really, really powerful stuff. So yeah, it's it is absolutely. I suggest everybody do that. Just make sure you play offline.
Wasn't it one Duck stream where I think Gary did that and some of the other people in Portland? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun
they
to
did
watch.
one of those. Yeah. Ben, how about you? Challenge runs.
So the closest I can think of this, and I think it's fueled by the Modern Warfare coming out, is trying different like class builds on the multiplayer in Modern Warfare 2 back in the day, where we would do things like you make a class where you don't care about your gun at all. You just run really fast. You don't get tired, and you have the tactical knife that you stab people with.
Okay.
And like just try and make a build out of that, and then make it work in games. And there's some games where you can get like busted turnouts and get like 20 kills or whatever. Or like just have like the police shield and use that the entire time. And so I think did a lot of like finagling with that, of trying to make every possible combination of perks work together, or see how you could break the game. So I think that's the closest I came to that sort of thing.
In the original Modern Warfare 2, I tried to prestige while only using secondary weapons, which was far more viable than you would think, because some of the secondaries are it might be a smaller magazine or whatever, but they kind of pack a lot of punch. And it just forced you to think a lot more about positioning and surprising people.
Nice.
Not my answer. I just made me think of it.
So is that Modern Warfare 2 that's coming out? Is that a remake? Is that what that is? I have no idea. Or if it's just
man.
It's
different. Yeah,
okay.
It's a different game, but it's I don't know. Whatever.
Weird.
It looks good.
Put out a remake though?
I mean, they've all been remakes.
You're not wrong. The calculus right now is it's like, do I need to play a game between now and God of War? Does that need to be it? But okay.
Yeah. David, how about you? Challenge runs.
I've got nothing. I mean, I'm challenging myself not to play the Stanley Parable and currently succeeding.
Yeah.
I need to find another game to like.
I mean, that is
no, never change.
That's a literal challenge of the game, though, David.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I'm just doing what they wanted.
You're playing into the game.
Yeah. Dennis, how about you?
I've got a couple different ones that came to mind. in Borderlands 2, after the first time I played it through, I like started a bunch of ideas for challenge runs, and then they were kind of trivially easy or didn't feel that different to the main game, so I stopped. One was I tried to play through without any shields, but I just played as the Gunzerker class, which only cares about health anyway. So I was
Right.
like, okay, well, I wouldn't care about the shield if I had it. And then the other one was playing through where every time I saw a new gun, I had to switch to it.
Okay.
And it was like, well, there's no guns that are just completely not functional, right?
Right.
So you see a lot of different bang zoom stuff, but it ultimately didn't change how you were playing that much.
Mm-hmm.
And then the thing that made me think to post this as a multiplayer was I was talking with some friends over the weekend about Fallout 3. And, everyone kind of talking about their first experience with that. And I had played through the game the right way for a Bethesda game, which is small guns, good talking, right?
Yep. The Duckfeed standard.
Mm-hmm. And then I was like, I'm going to do the complete opposite, and I'm going to see if I can play through without using the VAT system at all.
Oh,
So I did an evil,
you played it bad. Yeah.
evil, melee, and minigun. And just went. But then somewhere in there, a friend asked to borrow the game, and I was like, "Oh, I'll lend it to you. I'll finish this when you give it back." And he never gave it back.
Oh no.
Ooh.
Yeah, it wasn't any of you guys. Don't worry.
Okay, that's good.
But anyway, it was called to my attention that Fallout 3 is both on the Epic Game Store, and Game Pass right now. So I might have to go chase that white whale.
Give it a shot.
Many shots through a minigun without using VATs.
I mean, you could play Fallout 76, where that's basically the ideal way to play it endgame.
No, I'm going to go play Fallout 3.
Nice. Well,
did it sound like I was considering it?
No, it did not at all.
Okay.
Good question, Dennis. Thank you for posting it, and thank you everybody for participating. If you would like to be like them, you can in the future go to facebook.com/thelevelpodcast, like the page, and watch for the prompts to go up on Monday afternoons.
The end boss.
Now it is time for the end boss, where we talk about things that are happening in the world of video games that are exciting to us. I've got one. It is the survival horror news that everybody is talking about over the past week.
Alone in the Dark?
Well, I mean, that remake does look pretty cool, at least what I've seen of it. That was not last week, though. Last week, or at least this weekend. It seems like there's going to be a new Parasite Eve if the trademark filing is to be believed. Like that fake out. You think I'm going to talk about Silent Hill? I'm not going to talk about Silent Hill.
Wait, did that happen between last week and this?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Curse these news conferences that happen right after we podcast.
I know, right? I tweeted about it. We'll see when it comes out. Or when the various things come out. I am excited about the one by the Stories Untold folks.
Yeah.
Townfall. Yeah.
To briefly touch on it, I like that. Like last week, we were speculating, which one of these rumors are true, and then the next day, it's like, they're all true.
Yeah, I honestly didn't expect them to be announcing more than one thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, the thing that I'm talking about is that over the weekend, Square Enix filed a trademark for the phrase or for the word symbiogenesis. Okay, this is a term from evolutionary theory, where two primitive organisms merge with each other and then kind of evolve as their own kind of combined thing. The early example of this in not only humanity but all let's say non-plant life is when mitochondria kind of hopped over. It parasited into cells. You don't need a biology lesson. That's a name for something that is very relevant to the game Parasite Eve, the 1998 horror RPG. This trademark filing makes it feel very likely that somewhere in the offing there is a new Parasite Eve or a remake of Parasite Eve coming out. which would be the first time that the series has been touched since 2010 with the abysmal Third Birthday. Yeah, so this is cool.
We've been through the Parasite Night, and now we are reaching the Parasite Dawn.
Maybe, possibly. Who knows? We need to know more. This is like literally just, this isn't even a thing happened. This is a thing might happen eventually. So,
which, can we just say, God bless the people that hunt through trademark filings?
Oh yeah,
like that is the Lord's work right there.
It's like the
wait, you mean lawyers?
No, the other no. Yeah, actually, probably. Oh,
I mean, yeah. Also, game fans or people in the press who also happen to be lawyers. It's kind of like how, like, there are journalists who just happen to be people who are really, really like dogged about filing FOIA requests. Like, you get your Ken Klippenstein, you know. Yeah. So, we'll see. I like Parasite Eve. I have meant to play Parasite Eve 2 for a very long time. That is more of a traditional survival horror game. But who knows? It'd be nice if they did it right. But we are probably years away from learning. Ben, you don't have a link in here. You just have something about the Smash tournament.
Smash Brothers tournament.
Yeah. What's going on?
Yeah. So over the weekend in Vegas, there was a Smash tournament. It was run by a streamer called Ludwig, who I think we've talked about last year. He did like a month-long stream on Twitch.
Yeah.
He put up the money. I think there are a few sponsors, but he put up the money outside of that himself to invite Smash tournament. I think he himself was originally a Smash player before he was a streamer.
Okay.
They had a tournament both for Ultimate and Melee.
Of course.
And I think Melee being more of the highlight. That was the one that was showed at the prime times and like later. There were some fun hijinks of Mango, another popular Smash player and streamer as well, who was hungover and drinking still the second day of the tournament and like beating people because he had gotten to the losers bracket. So it was just like it was very special to watch a person be chugging like cheap beer in between games, playing somebody who is a professional Smash player. You know, like, it's just like wow. But yeah, I don't know. It was a lot of fun to watch. I think ended up in the finals. It was Hungrybox, who plays Jigglypuff, and Zane, who I don't follow Smash players too closely, so I hadn't heard of Zane before, but he was playing Marth. Zane ended up winning, and then Hungrybox took second. But it was just cool to see event. Like I know like Nintendo's like never really. This is what a lot of Smash players will talk about is Nintendo doesn't really do a good job of like supporting Smash players or like organizing tournaments, even though there's like a huge cult following for it.
Well, I mean, it's a truism that Nintendo hates its fans.
If Nintendo's not doing it or is not like wholly responsible for doing it, they're not a part of it. It seems so. Right. But it's cool to see like alternatives for that, and you know, for people to be able to start sponsoring things kind of like through this themselves or running it themselves. So yeah, that's
a cool thing for that streamer to do. You know, to bring the community into real life. That's neat.
Yeah. So anyway, it was fun to watch. That's all I got. Video game thing happened.
Yeah. And Dennis, what's happening with Dark Souls?
Yeah, more about what is not happening, which is online play. In fact, for the past 9 months, online play has been down. If people remember, there was an exploit discovered. I don't know enough about coding to say exactly what or where, but basically it was very dangerous for Dark Souls to be online or to have online connectivity. So they shut it down. And they've been working on it since. They have recently returned online servers for Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin, which is great that you can go back and play that. But unfortunately, they have confirmed that they are not going to bother bringing back the original Dark Souls on PC. So
yes, specifically, they're not bringing back the Prepare to Die edition.
Right. Yeah. And this is, it's sad, online games have this happen. Servers get shut down. Dark Souls has such a rabid following. that you could see the servers for this existing for a long time. So I don't know if people are able to play Dark Souls online in other versions of the game.
Yeah, the remastered, which should run on almost any system that Prepare to Die runs on.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. And it's good to have Dark Souls 2 back. But a little sliver of the Dark Souls universe is forever cut off from the internet.
Yes. One small bonfire of the constellation is out.
Thematic, really.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is kind of shocking that it took them this long to get that back up.
Yeah. I'd be curious about like just what the details of the breach were. Again, not that I could understand it, but I'd be curious.
It was apparently really bad, like as close to just like total exposure as I have heard. Yeah, Ben has pasted something here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I googled it. The main words that you need to care about are remote code execution.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a problem.
Yeah, that sounds like viruses. That sounds like something that makes you part of a botnet. Yeah.
This is their PC now.
Yes. Yeah, it was never yours to begin with. Yeah. You got anything for us, David?
I got nothing.
Attaboy. How do you all feel about buttoning it up?
Let us so button.
The credit.
Thank you so much for listening to level number 434. We really appreciate it. That is the last episode that will have the numbers 4, 3, and 4 in that order for another 1,000 episodes. So,
technically correct.
The best kind of correct.
Yeah. You know what to do to support the show. You've listened to podcasts before. We appreciate any Patreon or any liking on Facebook or ratings or reviews, any of those, telling friends. It's all good. Dennis, anything to promote with the old what are we calling it? With your game, Deck of Wonders. There we go.
The wondrous of decks.
Yeah.
The deckest of wonders.
Yeah.
It is still a shipping, and it is clearing customs as we speak. So that's exciting. That's a big benchmark. Also a big bottleneck. So if we get smoothly through that, then that means very good things for having the game in people's hands by year's end.
Which side of the ocean is it on?
Oh, geez. I think it's on our side.
Okay. Well,
it's all over the globe. And that's the cool thing is like, a huge shipment went to Europe, a smaller shipment went to Australia, and then the biggest one came here to the US. But it is arriving at least in its ports of not of origin, of destination. Now you just got to get it from the port to the distribution center, which is no small feat.
Right.
But that's all boring logistics. Deck of Wonders is still coming. You can still pre-order probably till the end of the month. You can get into the first wave of shipments. After that, you can still pre-order, but it'll be in a future shipment. So you might have to wait a week or two. Nice. And who wants to do that, honestly?
Nobody wants to wait. Come on.
No. Except for the 2 years that it's taken to finish the game.
Well,
no one wants to wait more than that, though.
Only 2 years?
Yeah, and almost exactly.
No, I guess not only 2 years. It feels weird that it has been 2 years.
Yeah. Craziness.
Huh. Cool. Well, I have been Cole Ross. You can catch me on Twitter at Cole Ross.
I've been Dennis Furia. You can catch me on Twitter at Deck of Wonders with underscores between the words. Fun fact, I looked into it, and because I hold the trademark, I can technically go get the handle. That's just Deck of Wonders.
Is it a dormant account, or is it?
Yeah, it hasn't been used since like 2012 or something.
Oh, yeah.
I just haven't pulled the trigger on that.
If
you think it makes a difference, there's a form, and then I imagine some time will pass.
Yeah,
but yeah, I can't imagine that it makes that much of a difference. But who knows? I digress.
I'm David Maismith. You can't catch me because I have a head start.
And I've been Ben Merkel.
And stick around for some titles. I have two. I have a love letter to old Hollywood, and spaghetti belts. All right. Who else has one?
I straight up forgot about titles this week.
Okay.
Ooh. You must now submit that as your title.
No, that would break the system.
It's too long.
I had two. I had Pre-Wick
Okay.
and Parasite Dawn.
Okay. David?
I had the bowling you'd imagine Rumpelstiltskin doing. The cornhole of bowling. And have fun drowning.
Have fun drowning. Okay. So it comes down, I think, on laughs to either have fun drowning or spaghetti belts.
I enjoyed Spaghetti Belt.
I have no preference.
You have
Yeah,
no
I'm cool with that.
Okay. Okay, spaghetti belts. All right. It's just a fun series of words,
Like
right?
spaghetti belts, yeah.
Yeah.
Spaghetti belts, like you have sometimes.
Mhm.
Okay. It is decided.